So, good morning, everyone. And today we'll do a poem titled She Speaks, a School Teacher from South India. So, this is the poem that we are going to read today. This is written by Meena Alexander. And this poem actually speaks of, it's from a collection titled Raw Meditations on Money, written by Meena Alexander. And this is actually, you can say, a narrative about the problems caused by the dowry system, which we find very prevalent in the Indian scenario. So, what are the issues that arise out of this system that has been in India from time immemorial? So, there are many people who suffer a lot because of this system, right? Because of the dowry system. So, this poem actually highlights the predicament of the victims of this dowry system, the dowry-related angst, the problems, the subsequent deaths that are caused because people always keep on asking for dowry, and how the victims of this dowry system suffer, how they have to kind of sometimes end their lives, even if they are well educated, is what this poem actually speaks about. And she has been tracing this issue from time immemorial in Indian society. This is not something that has happened today. This has been there from a long time. And in spite of this being in the Indian society for a long time, we find that even today, nothing has been done to change this. Nothing has been done to ameliorate this situation. Even today, we see in certain parts of India, there are so many cases of deaths which occur because of this dowry problem. Either it will be a suicide or it will be a murder. In certain villages of northern India, we see how brides are burnt because they did not bring enough dowry or the kind of money that their parents-in-law expected, right? Or the husband's family expected. Now, this is just for us to understand that how much the female psyche or how much the woman suffers even when she is well educated, even when she's got a lot of talents and qualities, sometimes she's just reduced to nothing because her worth is determined by the paper or the money or the gold that she brings, right? The paper money, that's what I meant, right? So I'll just read this poem for you, and you can just listen to this. This is Meena Alexander's poem, and you know, Meena Alexander is one of the most important writers of the Indian diaspora, right? And she is a person who actually speaks about many of the problems that plague women in Indian society. So right now she is in America. She lives in New York, and she is basically from Kerala. And though she studied in the northern part of India, and today she is a distinguished professor of English and Women's Studies at the Hunter College in New York, right? So, so she's a diasporic writer. She writes about India, though she does not live in India at present, but she speaks about the problems of India. And she mainly worked in the mainstream genre of fiction, but she has written a lot of poems also. Poems which are actually very, very meaningful. They speak about the problems that women face in Indian society. So when I read this poem for you, I'm sure you're going to understand what she's speaking about. When I talk about dowry-related angst, the dowry-related problems, the dowry-related trauma that women undergo, you'll understand when I read this poem, right? So I'll just read it for you. It's like this. She speaks, a school teacher from South India. Right? So this is the voice of a school teacher from South India. So a school teacher is an educated woman, right? She is a woman who will be most probably a postgraduate, right? Postgraduate. She'll also have a degree, bachelor's degree in education. So she's not just a woman who is illiterate. She's a literate woman, a woman who's got her worth, because you cannot simply do your post-graduation and become a teacher if you're not worthy or if you're not qualified, if you're not smart enough, right? So she is a teacher, but what is her story? What does she speak? That's what we're going to listen here. Portions of a mango tree, the storm cut down, a green blaze bent into mud, and they Come to me at dawn, three girls from Kanpur, far to the north, admittedly. We know this from the National Geography class, the borders of states, the major cities. They hung themselves from fans. In the hot air, they hung themselves so that their father would not be forced to tender gold. He did not have, nor would be forced to work his fists to bone. So that is how a portion of the story goes. Slowly in the hot air they swung, three girls. How old were they? Of marriageable age, certainly. 16, 17, 18, something of that sort. How do I feel about it? What a question. I am one of the three sisters. Most certainly, I do not want father to proffer money he does not have for my marriage. Get a scooter, a refrigerator, a hoard of utensils, silks and tiny glittering bits of gold to hang about my ears and throat. Gold is labor time accumulated, labor time defined. Who said that? Yes, I am a school teacher. Fifth standard, trained in Indian history and geography, Kerala University, first class first. The storm tree puts out its limbs and I see three girls swinging. One of them is me. Step back, I tell myself. Saumya, step back. The whole history of womankind is compacted here. Open your umbrella, tuck your sari tight, breathe into the strokes of catastrophe and let the school bus wait. You will get to it soon enough and the small hot faces. See how the monsoon winds sow and shun tropic air into a house of souls, a doorway stocked by clouds. Set your feet into broken stones and this red earth and pouring rain. For us, there is no exile. See, here we see Meena Alexander talking about a school teacher. She also speaks about a school teacher. She also speaks about three girls who hung themselves. So we see how these three girls and the school teacher kind of, they juxtapose with each other. Sometimes we find the identity of the school teacher cannot be distinguished from the identity of the three girls. They kind of merge into one identity. The reason being, all of them face the same predicament, right? All of them face this issue of their fathers having to shell out a lot of monies to get them, lot of money to get them married, a lot of gold, a lot of material things to get them married. So on one side, we have these three girls, 16, 17, 18, young girls from the northern part of India, Kanpur. And then we have a teacher from South India, right? And we see how the identities of these four people merge together. So the problem is not a problem that is seen only in one part of India. It is not just seen in northern India, it's also seen in the southern part of India. It is not something that is just very much, very much known to only one part of India or very much common to one part of India. It is something that is beyond time, it's beyond space, right? It's not something that happens to young girls, it's not something that happens to just 16-year-old girls or 18-year-old girls. It also happens to teachers. So a teacher would not be just 16-year-old, she would be somewhere in her 20s, early 20s, right? So there is no bridge between there is no gap between the time, the space, anything. It can happen anywhere in India. It is not something that is particular to one particular locale. It is common. So we see the identities of this teacher and the three girls merging together. So so what we understand is this is not a problem that is just particular to one segment of society. It is applicable to all segments, whether you are educated, whether you are not as educated, whether you are literate, whether you're completely illiterate, whether you are from the north or whether you're from the south, whether you're from an urban family, whether you're from a rural family. This problem of dowry is something that is common. It is universal to people across our country. And that is what she's trying to bring out here. So when we analyze the poem line by line, we start off like this. Portions of a mango tree, the storm cut down, a green blaze bent into mud. So, and then she says, and they come to me at dawn, three girls from Kanpur, far to the north, admittedly. They hung themselves. So here we see the identities of these girls compared to the mango tree. So we see a mango tree, a strong, sturdy mango tree that the storm cuts down, and the green the green branch, right? Or you can say the young branch with its green leaves, it is bent into mud. So this is reference to the young girls. So this can be a reference to the young girls, the young sturdy girls. They're in their youth. But what happened to them? They have been cut down by a storm. And what is the storm that has come into their life? The storm is the fact that their father is not able to afford to give dowry for them. So that is the storm that has come into their lives. They are from Kanpur, and she speaks Kanpur. How do we know about Kanpur? We have learned about Kanpur in our geography lesson, and Kanpur is one of the major cities of India, right? Kanpur is one of the major cities. See, we have one of the Indian Institute of Technology in Kanpur. It's a major city, and we know that it is in the northern part of India because we've learned about states and its borders in our geography class. So she explains like that, right? So she is a teacher. Right? She is a teacher and she is a geography, history, social studies teacher maybe, because she says she's trained in history and Indian history and geography. Towards the middle of the poem, we see her telling that. So this is how the school teacher says, these young girls who hung themselves from the fans are girls who had to be cut in the prime of their life. Just like the mango trees, young branches were cut down by the storm. These young girls have been cut down in the prime of their life by a storm that has come into their lives. And what is the storm? Their father could not tender gold. She says they hung themselves from fans. They hung themselves in the hot air. They hung themselves. So Kanpur has got, very hot climate, especially summer season. So this happened somewhere in the summer season, we'll understand. And we realized that they hung themselves in the hot air so that their father would not be forced to tender gold. They did not want their father to go through this trauma of, of accumulating gold for them, or, of kind of buying gold. So tender means exchange, give gold and give their daughter. To get a son-in-law, you have to give gold. So their father would not be forced to tender gold. He did not. Gold he did not have. That's what she says. That's what she says. Would not be forced to tender gold he did not have. This man does not have gold. He would not be forced to work his fist to a bone. Work his fist to a bone is an idiom which says that work very, very hard. So they don't want their father to work terribly hard. They don't want their father to go through this trauma of working day in and day out, year in and year out, so that he would accumulate gold for them. So that is how a portion of the story goes, right? So the school teacher is narrating to us the story of these three girls, how they were cut in the prime of their youth. Slowly in the hot air, they swung, three girls. How old were they? Of marriageable age, certainly. These young girls were girls who are of marriageable age. 16, 17, 18. Now we'll think is 16 a marriageable age. Well, in many parts of northern India, they still have these kind of so-called, child marriages, wherein the girl is married off when she's 16. Actually, the Indian constitution says that the age for marriage is 18. I think now it has been raised to 21. But girls were not supposed to be married off before 18. But in most parts of India, especially in northern India, we see how these girls would be married off early. What was one reason? The reason was the earlier the better. As the days go by, as the years go by, the father would have to accumulate more and more gold, right? So he says the earlier the better, it's nice, because otherwise they would have to create, or they would have to buy more gold, or they will have to work harder to get more money and more gold, right? As the days go by, the value of money also changes. So the girls would be married off very early. Or 16, will be a time when they would start looking out for a group, because by the time you start negotiating the amount that has been given, it will take 2 to 3 years. So 16, 17, 18 is a marriageable age. Something of that sort. How do I feel about it? What a question. I'm one of those three sisters. Now we see the identity of the school teacher merges with the identity of these three girls. So she says, I understand what they are because I've gone through the same thing. This is what has happened. This is what is happening to me also. I'm in South India and I'm not like them. I'm educated. I have studied. I've got a degree and I'm a school teacher. But this is also my fate. Right? I also have to go through this. So she says, what a question. I am one of those three sisters. Most certainly, I do not want father to proffer money he does not have for my marriage. Get a scooter, a refrigerator, a board of utensils, silks and tiny glittering bits of gold to hang about my ears and throat. Gold is labor time accumulated, labor time defined. So she says, see, this is my own predicament. The predicament of the three girls is also my predicament. So what is happening? I don't want my father to kind of work to the bone to get material things for my marriage. That is money, scooter, refrigerator, utensils, silks, gold, everything. He has to kind of buy everything. So this is the same situation there in Kanpur also. The man would have to buy all this, right? And gold would be the most important thing that they have to give the bridegroom's family, right? So she says, I don't want my father to do this. So I'm also thinking, I also would be, like these girls, hang myself, right? Hang myself, right? So gold is labor time accumulated. So she says it is years and years of labor, years and years of hard work that is accumulated that is equivalent to the gold that you buy. The money that is accumulated over the years, it's not something that you get overnight. You work so hard for it over the years. It is labor time accumulated, labor time defined. You need to understand that the amount of labor that you have put in, it has been accumulated over the years, and then you get the money, right? And then you get this money. It is not something that you get easily. You work very hard for it. That's what she says. Gold is labor time accumulated, labor time defined. Who said that? Yes, she said, who says that? I say that. Yes, I am a school teacher, a fifth standard, trained in Indian history and geography, Kerala University, first class. So she says, I'm not a person who is not literate. I'm fifth standard school teacher. I teach in primary school, right? Upper primary, right? I teach in the upper primary. And I have worked hard. I did my post-graduation in history, geography from Kerala University. So that's why she says a school teacher from South India, from Kerala University. And it is not just a postgraduate degree. I got a first class. So maybe a gold medalist, right? She says first class first. That means she might have been a first class, or maybe even the topper of the university, or maybe a gold medalist, anything. All these things are, you can interpret all these things into this line. So first class means first class first. That's what she says. First class first. That means first class with a first rank, first class with a gold medal, anything. So it is like, you see how this girl is so talented. It's not easy to get a first rank or a rank in the university. You really need to work hard for that, right? And getting a rank is actually a prestigious issue. And in spite of getting a rank and in spite of getting a job, this is her predicament. The same predicament of the three sisters in Kanpur, right? The storm tree puts its limbs out and I see three girls swinging. One of them is me. Step back, I tell myself. So she says, I see these three girls hanging, right? And I think of the storm and the storm that comes and cuts down the tree, the young tree. So the storm in the lives of these girls, the storm which comes in the form of dowry, which comes in the form of trauma created by the fact that the father doesn't have enough money to marry off his daughters. So she says, this is my own problem. It is not just a problem of these girls from North India. This is also my problem. And she says, when I see the three girls swinging, I identify them. I identify with them. One of them is me because this is my predicament also. Step back, I tell myself. Saumya, step back. So she says, why should I do this? Let me step back from this thinking pattern. The whole history of womankind is compacted here. Open your umbrella, tuck your sari tight, breathe into the strokes of catastrophe, and let the school bus wait. So she says, step back from all this. Saumya, she addresses us as Saumya, step back. She says, I see the whole history of women encompassed here. What have women been asked to do all these years? Open your umbrella. Why open your umbrella? Women are not supposed to walk in the sun. The reason is if you walk out in the sun, you will get a tan. And if you get a tan, what happens? Then the person who comes to see you would always definitely want a fair-skinned girl, right? It's always like a fair, tall, this is what they want. Girl with a fair complexion. And if you walk in the sun without your umbrella, there are chances that your skin would get tan, and that would ruin your marriage prospects. So women have been over the years told how to act. They have been told how to behave. So she says, step back from all this, because the whole history of womankind is, I can see it compacted here. I can see it encapsulated here in a small capsule form. I can see everything here. Open your umbrella, tuck in your sari tight, make sure that your sari folds are in proper place. Breathe into the strokes of catastrophe. There are problems and there are trauma and there is so much of devastation that happens in your life. You breathe in, take it in and swallow it as if it is yours. Adjust, right? Go ahead with it. Don't complain, right? This is what I was telling you yesterday about the movie that I saw, The Great Indian Kitchen. When the girl calls her mother and tells her, see, this is the kind of trauma that I face in my husband's house, her mother says, shut up, don't say this. You should consider yourself lucky to be married into such a prestigious family. And don't think that you could come back here on such a small pretext. So the whole history of women is like that. They are never allowed to voice out their problems. They're always asked to suppress. So they say, breathe into the strokes of catastrophe. There'll be problems that will come. They'll come as strokes. The problems, the catastrophe will come as strokes. And you're just supposed to take it in and just supposed to suppress it. Let the school bus wait. No need to go for work. Let it wait. You will get to it soon enough, and the small hot faces. So you just wait. Let the school bus in. You are a school teacher. You don't have to go for a job. This is, even if you don't go for a job, it's fine. You need to kind of make sure that you subscribe to the family that you're married into. And how do we? Because we spend so much of energy and time and effort to accumulate the things that are required to marry you off. And if at all you cannot go to your school, let it wait. It's fine. The children will wait. They'll get somebody else. Or maybe you can take a break. So this is what women are supposed to endure. In the same movie that I was talking about, the girl wants to become a dance teacher and her husband and her father-in-law are not willing to. Though the mother-in-law kind of supports her, the father-in-law and the husband, they don't entertain any conversation there about this. It's just that, this is your job. And the father-in-law goes another step to tell her that the job that you are doing is a very honorable and a worthy job, right? Looking after a house is one of the best things, one of the best things that you can do, and something which is even more important than any great bureaucratic job, right? So this is actually, I would say it's like kind of glorifying something that does not need to be glorified that much. And it is like making the women believe that you are doing something very great. It's like, whitewashing. So actually women fall for all this. You should not. Because a woman is not just a wife. Always remember that. A woman is not just a wife. A woman is a person, just like the man is. She is someone who's got her own worth. Her worth is not just in being a wife. Of course, her worth is in being a wife. That is only one aspect of it, right? The world does not revolve around the fact that a woman is only a wife or a mother. Those are only one of the few roles that she plays. I'll say one of the many roles that she plays, right? She is a person with integrity. She is a person of value. She is a person who's got worth of herself. So she has to do things which would enable her to blossom as a person, as a human being. Of course, she's a wife. I'm not undermining. I'll be the last person to undermine the role of a wife or a mother. I always consider it very important, right? But those are not just the roles that a woman has. Of course, they are two important roles. There are other important roles also, right? She is a very important figure in society. If she is working, I would always advise women to work. I will always tell you should work. right? But when your children are very small, I would also say that please take time off to look after them. You can always take a break for your children when they're in their formative years. That's what I also did, right? Take care of them when they're very, very small, because the formative years are very, very important. The basic truths about life you can imprint on their souls and on their hearts in their formative years. So during their formative years, always take a break from your job. But other than that, you should always work. To earn your own money, to stand on your own feet is very important, right? See, I always remember what one of my teachers told us, that it's always ringing in my ears when I went to Assumption College for my degree, for my BA English. I remember when one of my teachers who came to our class to give us an orientation on how to study and why we should study well enough. So she always used to tell us, and I still remember the first time she said this. She said, you should all work. It's always important that you earn your own money, right? And you can always tell, I wouldn't go that extent, but you can always tell your husband that, see, it's not because I have no money. It's not because I'm not able to do things on my own that I live with you. I live with you because I love you and I want to live with you. So she always used to tell us that. And it was always ringing in my ears, right? But I always would say that, see, whenever you have your own income also, it is the family's income. There's nothing like my money, your money, or anything. I always advocate that fact that the money that comes into the home is the family's income. So it's not fair to have two different purses in the family. It's always the common purse. There should be understanding between the husband and wife about the money. It is not yours or it is not his, it is ours. It's always like that, right? But it's always good to be independent. It's always good to stand on your feet, because you have your own value, you have your own worth, and you're respected in so many ways, right? And you can, what I always feel is, you can always empower other people. You can always impact other people in other areas of life also, right? So she says this is what women have always been suffering. Now she continues like this. See how the monsoon wind soared and shunned tropic air into a house of souls, a doorway stopped by clouds. Set your feet in broken stones, and this red earth and pouring rain. For us there is no exile. So she says this is the predicament of the entire race of women all over the world. Maybe a little more in certain countries where they have no freedom, where their lives are always destined around their families, where their lives are always destined around the concept of dowry. Even if they are well educated, there is no escape from this regime of dowry system that engulfs them. So she says it is time that we kind of set our feet firm and take a step backwards. See, there is, people says there is no kind of escape from this, but we can always carve a path for us. Uh, I would always say, like Meena Alexander says, please do not get married to people who come and demand dowry. If a person demands dowry, please tell that person, I'm not getting married to you. Now, nobody is supposed to ask for dowry. That is a very wrong concept. When a girl gets married, if the father or the mother of the girl wants to give some gift to her, the money or the gift, whatever is given, should be put in her name. The husband and the wife can use it later on when they do something, right? But I know people who come and demand, we need this much gold and this much of money. So always we should say no to them, because I would always say it's better not to get married than to get married to a family, married into a family where they ask for dowry. Even if you're not married, you can always live. Today, so many women live without getting married. They live single life, right? And if you have a job, you can always live life, a single life. You can always impact other people. You can contribute so much to society. But if you get married, make sure that you do not get married to a family where people demand money. Of course, your parents might give you something. And when they give something, make sure that it is put in your name, not in the husband's name or not in the father-in-law's name. And you and your husband should be able to use it. And to the men folk, I would always say it's very cheap to demand money. Because just like the parents of a son bring up their son, the same way the parents of a daughter also bring up their daughter. Right? So they spend the same amount in bringing her up and, educating her, making sure that she's able to stand on her 2 feet. So it isn't fair for the parents of the girl to give a huge amount demanded by the groom's family. So as young men, you should also put your foot down when it comes to this dowry system. And this is what this poem is all about. And Meena Alexander has very poignantly, and I would say she is very clearly, lucidly depicted this problem of dowry, which is prevalent in India, not just in the northern part of India, but also in all parts of India. So it is beyond space, right? It is beyond space, and it's not just for one era, it is beyond time also, beyond. So she breaks all temporal and spatial boundaries when she writes this poem, and she brings out the angst, the agony, the problems, the trauma that dowry victims and their parents undergo. So this is the poem for you. Any questions or any comments you would like to make? You're open. You're welcome to do that now.